We are going to be talking about the design process. In your White Space is Not Your Enemy book, this is going to be Chapter 2, Step Away from the Computer. In graphic design school, you want to be reading Unit 1, which is Research and Early Concepts. We need to do some other work, including research, before we start putting our designs together. This is the design process, and it is a process. It isn't a one-off-the-wall knockoff thing that you don't put any thought or planning into. This involves trying to think of the best result, taking chances, doing it wrong, starting over again, working again from another view, solving problems. Design is not just the end product, it's also the planning and the missteps and the corrections and the reworking and the starting over and making new plans. It's not just creating that final design. A lot of what I'm going to be covering is not in your book. Some of it is, some of it's going to be presented a little bit differently, but there's a lot of good information that I'm going to be handing out to you in this lecture. Stanford University came up with Design Thinking Boot Camp. Most people, in fact almost everybody, has a problem with design thinking. The spirit of it is not our conventional problem-solving thinking. It isn't cold, it isn't analytical. It really means getting involved in the problem. You have to learn by doing. You have to try out ideas even if they're wrong, and go back and rework the issue, try it again, rework it, and try it again. The Design Thinking Boot Camp has a 5-mode design thinking model. It is empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Empathize. Does anybody know what it is to empathize? When you have empathy, you feel for someone else. You understand what they are going through. So how do you develop this empathy? If you're given a design problem, so let's just say you are going to create an ad for a new skateboard. How would I develop empathy for a skateboard user so I would know how best to present the skateboard to them? I don't know anything about skateboards, so I probably need to go observe people and see what a person who uses a skateboard, how they use it, where they go, what they do, how they interact with the area around them, and how they interact with other people. So I'd probably go to a skateboard park and watch the users. Then, after I've got a chance to watch them, I need to start interviewing and interact with them, find out what their needs are, what their wants are, find out what best I can do with my design that's going to be helpful. Immerse yourself in whatever the experience is, so spend time with them, get to know what their challenges are, get to know how they think, so you can have a good understanding. Once you have this ability to empathize with the end user, you can then go back, look at your problem, and maybe fine-tune it. So I'm going to redefine what I'm going to be doing. So my general assignment is to create this ad for a skateboard, but now I know more what the user needs, what the user wants, and I can go look at this skateboard and see how that is going to provide a good result for them. Defining is going to guide how you explore this. It's going to give you focus. It's going to act as reference for evaluating the ideas that you come up with. Employing your empathy findings gives you a human-centered approach. You're designing for your users, not for just the world in general, but specifically for a group of people. Now I have developed a good understanding for what the needs of my end user are, and I have redefined what the issue is that I need to work on. So now I'm going to come up with some great ideas for how to promote the product that I have to best fit the needs of the end user. So I'm going to come up with all kinds of ideas on what I can show the end user that would make them believe that this would be a great product for them. So I'm going to come up with a lot of different concepts, as many ideas as I possibly can. And then I'm going to pick through those and I'm going to do some prototyping. What is prototyping? It's making test designs to see if they work. These are rough drafts of ideas. See if they really are working. Just stick to sketches, very rough models, because you don't want to invest a whole lot of time into all of this in case it doesn't work. When you have something that works well for you, then test it. Prototyping gives you a way to fail without having spent a whole lot of time onto developing a product out. Or I keep saying product when I really mean a design. So we keep developing these ideas, we see what they look like, and testing gives you the opportunity to look at the solutions that you came up with, show them to people, and see if they are good. See if they work. See if people can relate to them. You might take a test design, go back to that skate park and talk to somebody that you've developed a relationship with and see if what you have come up with resonates with them and whether it's going to be a good design. If it isn't, ask them why it doesn't work, get some feedback, and go back to create another idea. Go back to ideation. Maybe you might have to even go back and redefine again what the problem is and what you believe would be a solution, and go back and create more prototypes. Testing is something that is going to give you an idea and a feedback on how this works. This isn't the only model, by the way. There's a 5-phase model of the design process, which involves research, strategy, concepts, design, and implementation. It's very similar. In the research, you again go back and look at your design brief. You gather information. You identify and understand the communication goals. Identify and understand who your target market or your target audience is. You want to identify and understand who your target audience is, who is the main relevant group who is going to purchase this brand or use this information or use this service or use this product. So it's very much like the empathy stage. A design brief is simply a plan that is written both by your client and your design firm or your advertising agency that you both agree to, that is a written document that outlines and presents strategy for a design or for an advertising project. This is what you are going to use to come up with your concepts. This can also be called a creative brief. Some of the things that you might ask yourself when you do a design brief is, what is the project title? What is the exact assignment? What are the challenges going to be? Who is my key audience? What is the scope of this project? What are the assignment objectives? What's the brand strategy? How does this product fit into a broader design program? What's the schedule? What are my deadlines? How much can I spend? Design briefs are going to vary and they're going to depend on what the project is and what the scope of the project is. These are some fairly standard questions, but there is no such thing as a standard design brief. The point is to get the objectives stated clearly. Clear objectives provide the benchmark for gauging a design success. What exactly is the visual communication purpose? What do you want your audience to think? What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to do? Is the audience learning something new? Are you creating a preference? Are you creating a conviction? Are you stimulating action? Is there a behavior you want them to do? At this point, you have to learn about your client and your audience. Okay, that's that empathy. Who is your audience? What does your client say about themselves? What does your client say about the audience? Are you designing something that's going to be for people who are loyal patrons, or is this for somebody that just happens to be there? If you're designing for older adults, it's going to be different than designing for teenagers. Public relation firms and advertising agencies can invest in focus groups and surveys and collect information about target audiences, what they want, how they interpret messages. News organizations might use opinion polls. The point is, you have to talk to the audience using their own visual vernacular. The visual aesthetics of something like MTV and early video games are part of the collective memory of Generation X. You need to consider the physical needs of your audience. Does this design need to coordinate with other design work? Anything new has to be able to work with an organization's visual identity. It has to work with their graphic design history. Think of Walmart. Their colors are blue and yellow. You can't do a design for Walmart in red. Red is Target. You have to be able to look at what their design history is and follow whatever rules and regulations they have, particularly for using their logo. Know what the colors are. Know what the rules are for producing the colors. Know what the rules are for using their logo. You can't plan your design around shades of purple if the organization's look and feel is using fire engine red. Get all the information you can. What are similar products, similar buildings? Who's the competition? If the competition is using green, by all means don't use green. If the competition's homepage features an image of a little girl, choose something else. What's the history? What is being said about these products on social media? A lot of students are going to skip doing research, and it's a rookie mistake. You think you know everything because you used a product and you're familiar with it. You may have an Apple Watch, but I can guarantee you do not know everything there is to know about Apple. Unless you are an expert in that product, in that brand, you have to do research. You maybe were brought up in a farming community and your parents own tractors and you've driven a tractor ever since you could reach the steering wheel. Your family's always had a John Deere tractor, but now you're going to go to work for Kubota. You got to know what there is about a Kubota that's going to make it a better product than that John Deere you've been driving ever since you were born. Empathize with the Kubota owner. Empathize with the Kubota dealer. Do the research. What is it about this particular company that they do better than anybody else? Be thorough. Do your own interviews. Look up published ones. Don't just use virtual research, get real research. Having the physical thing in your hand can influence you more than having it on a computer screen. Know how the logo is used. Know what their business strategy is. What's their past advertising look like? Convenience never replaces the value of doing serious research. You don't want to say to a client, I just didn't have time to look anything up. Then we're moving on to analysis and strategy.